Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call our work session meeting to order. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hope you had a good holiday, good break. So, Council, we do have quite a bit of ground to cover today, and possibly, depending on the pace of everything, may have a closed session that the manager is asked to talk briefly on some attorney-client privilege. All right, so we'll cover that, but we'll move on to the first item is the invocation prayer. Where's Councilman Davis? He said a prayer in church one day, set it on fire. So I know he can pray.
We're not doing that today. Lord, we thank you for gathering us here today. We ask that you be in our midst. We thank you that we'll make the sound decisions. We thank you that we make decisions that benefits this whole community at large. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilman Davis. What's going on, champ? Council, moving to City Manager's report. I think he has something on the later part, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll be, but I would be remiss if I also didn't say today is Michael Gibson's birthday. So if y'all could all wish him a happy birthday.
Is he even at work today? Where's he at?
He will. I told him that I would not bring it up, but y'all know that birthdays are very special here at the Hewitt household. So,
Mike,
but he'll
is
be.
That why you came into work on time?
That's it. He'll be in front of you in just a moment, man.
All right. Well. All right. So, Council, moving to approval of the agenda. Can we get a motion? All right. Motion by Councilmember Hare. Is there a second? By Councilmember Thompson. Discussion on the motion to approve. All right, Council, I look to you, to our system for your votes on that. Councilmember Hondros, you affirmative on that? Agreed. All right. So that's unanimous. Motion carries. Moving to 6.01, Innovation District Update. Ms. Oliveira. Is it still Ms. Oliveira? Legally. What is it?
It will be Ms. Strickland, Mrs. Strickland.
Right, Ms. Strickland.
So, yes, sir, thank you. But according to Social Security admin, right now it is still Oliveira.
All right,
so,
well, congratulations, Ms. Strickland Oliveira.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, sir, I've got a brief and very general presentation for you all about the innovation districts. Let me find how to start it. If you all recall, Council gave direction to staff at the September 3rd work session to come back with some information about innovation districts. We pulled together a working group comprised of 6 people from the staff from various departments within the city to do the research and then help compile this information. And I'd like to bring them up and introduce them to you all right now. So first, Christopher Williams, who is a management analyst with the city manager's office. Come up here.
We're being nice today.
Jennifer Baptiste, who is our development ombudsman and development services. Derek MacArthur, who is our economic development manager in economic and community development. Alexandra Hill, who is our marketing specialist at the airport. Demetrios Moutos, who is a planner 1 in development services. And Jennifer Eaton, who is a management analyst in ECD also. So this team of folks really put their noses to the grindstone and dug deep to find some information that we found very valuable and hope you do too. It is not exhaustive by any means, but they really took the charge to heart and dug in. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you. So we'll start. This slide just gives you some brief information about what an innovation district is. These are just common attributes of an innovation district. Really and truly, staff found that innovation districts vary tremendously from one place to another. They vary in size, they vary in focus, they vary in who manages them. We looked at 4 innovation districts in the state of North Carolina. One, of course, being RTP, which was established in 1959. It is over 7,000 acres of property in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area, and it is managed by Research Triangle Foundation, and their focus is on biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, IT, and environmental sciences. We also looked at the Innovation Quarter in Winston-Salem, which was established in 2012. It is 330 acres of property, and it is managed by Wake Forest University and Baptist Medical Center, with a focus on biomedical research, IT, digital media, and some manufacturing. Then Charlotte City Center was the third one. It was established in the late 1970s. It is a very small district. It is only 1.4 acres. And it is managed by a nonprofit organization and it focuses on finance and smart cities. And then the last one in the state that we looked at was Durham's Innovation District, which was established in 2015. It's managed by Longfellow Real Estate Partners, and it's 15 acres and focuses on biotechnology. So again, you can see that it's varied, these innovation districts across the state. But again, they all have these common features that you see on the slide in front of you. So they have to have anchor institutions and companies. They also have startups and business incubators. They're physically defined areas, and you want them to be accessible with different modes of transportation and transit. And they're mixed use, so they would have housing, education, entities, office, and retail spaces. One of the first things that Jen Eaton found for us in her research was the information you see in front of you now, the 12 guiding principles of innovation districts. This is provided from the Brookings Institute, and we found this to be a wonderful point to start off at. And we'll go through each of these and go over some key components. So the first one, guiding principle would be to find your strengths. So what are our economic strengths and what areas do we thrive in? Some of this information was provided by Ted Abernathy's research, in addition to 2 articles that were located by staff. So we have a lot of educational opportunities in our community. We have a very strong community college system and 2 major universities. We have very strong commuting in and out of our region, as Ted Abernathy focused on in his presentation, the research that he did. We also have a wealth of federal government workers, both enlisted in the military and civilian. There is a strong demand for tech and manufacturing workers, and it is expected to increase in our area over time. We also have one of the lowest cost of living indexes in the state, and we were found to be number 10 in the nation for areas to buy your first home.
Repeat, I was going to say that. Repeat that again.
Where's the press at?
So we have one of the lowest cost of living indexes in the state. And according to, well, the article is cited at the bottom, so I'll have to, if anyone wants the specific, I'll have to pull it up. But it's number 10. We are number 10 in the nation for areas for first-time home buyers. Another guiding principle is to build across your industries. So again, we have more industries in our area than this slide represents, but some of the major ones are, of course, defense and military, retail and small business, healthcare with Cape Fear Valley Medical Center and our new medical school, and logistics and transportation. Let us not forget where we are geographically and that a major corridor runs right through our backyard for logistics and transportation. How do we build across these industries? Through the use of hubs, incubators, public-private partnerships, funding and initiatives, and workforce development programs. Next, we want to make sure that we have the perfect mix of entities in our area and in our innovation district. So you want to include a little bit of everyone, private partnerships, all the municipalities and governmental agencies, and of course, all of the educational entities. And we have a strong representation in each one of these. Connection through infrastructure is another very important principle that we would not want to ignore. Do we have the physical infrastructure to support proximity, and could we be well connected physically within the district? And for that, we would need to look at what is our broadband capacity, what is our transit infrastructure, what does our street grid system look like? What is our pedestrian network comprised of? And what open spaces and recreation opportunities do we have that fall within the district? And we want to make sure that all of those are very strong to give us a good start on having a very strong and successful district. You also want to look forward at small and large-scale investments that could be done in the future. What long-term and short-term projects will the Innovation District have? Things like streetscape improvements and our pedestrian accessibility could be short-term improvements. Providing shuttle services within the district to make a shorter commute from one end of the district to the other end. Parking management, do we have enough parking and is it in the right places? And then we'd also want to activate public spaces. What parks are in the area and how can we plan to utilize those parks and activate them to make sure that they're included in the activities of the district. Then centralized amenities, what stores are there to be able to service the needs of the residents and the workers? What locations are convenient for restaurants and things like that? Then we'd also want to look at enhanced transit service, maybe a long-term goal. How do we get people from other areas of our city and our county into our district? How do we move those people there on a daily basis? And of course, another long-term goal would be to increase the mixed-use development within the district. You don't just want it to be all of one type of industry in the district or all of one type of business in the district. You want housing, you want retail, you want restaurants, and then you want educational and industry. Things to do. What activities will help grow skills and build networking in the district? Creating communal spaces such as playgrounds, coffee shops, co-working spaces where you have small startups who lease space, but they're all in there together are imperative. We want to foster a creative community and have public art in the district, performance venues, rotating art exhibits through the buildings. Encourage sustainability, maybe a community garden or a farmer's market, things along those lines, and instill a sense of community in the people in the district, to include pop-ups and maybe even a food truck park where people get out and they interact with people, not just about the reason why they're there, not just at a work level, but on a personal level too. And again, which ties into that, we want to encourage social interactions in the district. What will be the hot spots for collaboration, congregation, and building community? Again, here's where we would want to activate our parks and public spaces. We want green spaces and parks in the district so that people interact not just within the confines of four walls. We want to make sure that those spaces are planned with engaging events like workshops and tech meetups, and that there are, in fact, collaborative work spaces. So within your co-locating spaces where people are working, are there kitchens and break rooms that people would naturally gravitate to, which would promote conversation, so that even if I'm in a certain portion of the building, I still would have to interact with most of the other tenants in the building and not be isolated. You also want to highlight your local culture and talent in an innovation district to include showcasing your artists, musicians, and even businesses. Having a mobile app for the district is a wonderful idea to create that digital platform and allow people to connect digitally. and also offering multi-use spaces that are adaptable for different uses. So it's imperative to have spaces that might be used for a work meeting during the day, but in the evening would be a place where people congregate and there might be a performance of some sort. Sharing innovation is another guiding principle. How can we transform public spaces into living labs where innovation is shared? And you do that through a variety of means, like having clinics and symposiums. One thing that I found very interesting that was recommended was ensuring that a majority of the buildings in your innovation district, that the ground floors are all windows, so that people passing by, whether it's on foot or in a vehicle at a stoplight looking, can see what's going on inside the buildings. That creates curiosity and engages people to want to participate. And again, you want everyone to be a participant, right? Whether it's someone just driving through to get from point A to point B, you want them to be engaged in your innovation district. And any products that are tested, you would want them to be tested in a real-life environment. Go outside and do your product testing, whatever your product is. Don't do it inside the confines of your four walls. Take it out and see how people in the public respond to it. How do we tie the innovation district into our initiatives, into council's initiatives and goals? Well, we would clearly align them with your strategic goals and your strategic priorities, such as expanding the tax base, improving connectivity, fostering partnerships through community engagement, and enhancing quality of life. One other thing that will be very important before we establish the innovation district will be to remove barriers of entry. What things can we do to entice people to come and be a part of our innovation district? So policies that we would want council to look at would be our economic development policies, our public art policy, how we handle real property leases of city property, what are our special event policies and what fees do we have associated with those, our UDO, and our affordable housing policies. Another key component is funding sources and being creative with those. How can we utilize funding and grants to complement private funding? So the city could offer tax incentives and credits. The city could also offer grants and financial assistance to people who are wanting to come and take up space in the innovative district. We could also try and connect them with some state funding and state grants that we might be aware of. We can certainly provide marketing support, enhanced workforce development, and we can look at some development and infrastructure incentives. Partnership is the key to a successful innovation district. That is one of the most important principles of an innovation district. No one entity can have a successful innovation district. It takes a village. And you'll see my last icon here, more is more. So the more partners you have, the more closely their objectives and priorities align with each other, and the more they pool their resources, the more successful your district is going to be. And that's it. Are there any questions?
You have a couple, comment/question, but thank you for that and all your team that jumped into this. Council, I've had an opportunity, you may not have had a chance to read it. I sent an article from Urban Land magazine that was done that talked about mid and small-sized towns or cities, mid-sized and small-sized cities that are doing this. Over 100 have been done the last decade, but it talked about the challenges that communities like that have, and I consider us maybe a mid-sized city, but it just talked about the brain drain that we lose of talent that go away, and we've talked about that, which has gone back several years in councils about how do we capture more of that talent that goes away, but they said that this is a excellent way to kind of capture some of that. But I think one of the things I wanted to point out and didn't know if your team was tracking, so I did have a chance to meet with the chancellor at Fayetteville State, and they just there's a $500 million innovation fund that North Carolina has that has 3 sites of distribution, and Fayetteville State was named one recently, and which is to foster things like this. But I think with whatever Fayetteville State has, the grant from when we went up to D.C. to talk to the Department of Energy, when we took the city, county, PwC, FSU, Fayetteville Tech, and the schools, they got the $900,000 planning grant for to think about alternative energy, and it's a Fayetteville State PwC FTCC collaboration already. I think when you look at the hospital and the medical school, that brings in Methodist and Cape Fear, and as you look at your corporate partners, American Titanium, the company that was the Project Arrow that we had been talking about. Had a chance to meet with Teresa and her team who were down here all last week or week before last. That is going to be the only location like that in the world to do everything that they do on one site. And I asked about why is that? And the CEOs and some of the leadership were European. They were from Germany. But they basically said that the process that they take, typically everyone else takes the titanium from wherever they get it from, Kazakhstan or Ukraine or wherever. They send it to one location for processing, another location for something else at another location. So this will be unique because it's the only place that all of that is going to occur here. So once it comes out of the ground, it will stay here. And I know as they were talking about, that Urban Land magazine talked about new age manufacturing, I know that a corporate partnership could be something that they would be interested in as they try to build their presence and their footprint here. So I think this is a great start. I mean, and the biggest thing was it also said that it connects underserved communities to this technology. But just listening to your report to say that we're looking at the success that the Triangle has now, that they did this in 1959. I mean, so that's 50 years ago that they were thinking this way. Even Winston-Salem has got a decade head start. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation, and I think this dovetails into a lot of the areas that we've been talking about. So thank you.
Yes, sir. And if it's okay, we'd like to bring this back at the strategic planning retreat.
Yeah, you do have a couple others. I see
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Benevitti and then here.
Yes, sir, Mayor, thank you. Okay, right, okay.
It's great.
All right, thanks, Mayor. If you would, Assistant City Manager, explain something, maybe a little detail, maybe I'm so I can understand better. You said a innovation district like this is within 300 to 400 acres, or did you say 400 acres?
So it varies based on the city. So Durham's was 1.4 acres, very small.
Oh, okay.
But RTP was 3,000 acres. So it really is whatever we want it to be.
Right. So in creating this district, we're looking at, if I'm understanding correctly, using the core locations already, not going and starting doing brand new, but using core locations that we have already and to add to those, right? Is that what you were saying? That's how
Yes, sir.
we're moving forward on?
Yes, and actually, what staff would like to have done is we've been talking to folks at Bloomberg, Center for Cities at Harvard, and we're trying to get some potential consultants from them that we could vet and potentially have come back and work with council to flesh out a little bit more of what you want, what your thoughts are on the Innovation District. There is an abundance of analysis that really should be done, and that was one of the things that we discovered, especially when talking with the folks at Bloomberg. They did not just go about this willy-nilly. They really dug into studies that had been done previously. Their consultants dug in on all kinds of demographics and looked at a myriad of different data points and data sets before deciding exactly where It should be.
Okay, great.
Yes, sir.
Because my thing was, we have a lot of what you already were speaking of in your presentation in certain areas of our city.
Absolutely.
And so whenever they come to do whatever it is that they're going to do as far as, see what our scope is and what the territory is, then we will, I guess, decide on what areas are considered innovation districts, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, can it be innovation districts throughout the city? It doesn't have to be in one location?
There are cities that have multiple. Boston has several different innovation districts, not
Okay.
just one. They have different innovation districts that focus on specific things that are smaller.
Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
understand better. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's very much wide open to whatever we want to make it.
Councilmember Benavente?
At what point can you conceive of us looping in our Fayetteville Next folks?
I think when we have a consultant identified, I think they would be a great resource for our consultant to start meeting with and talking to, especially things like workforce development and how to tie into that population who wants to work somewhere other than a cubicle and does not find a cubicle to be a space that is innovative or inspires innovation.
Can we include them in some official capacity in future follow-ups with this, even though, again, don't put the cart before the horse. I get that you got to get some stuff in line,
Right.
but maybe they can be included in future breakdowns of what we're doing.
Absolutely. That's a wonderful idea. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Oliveira. Great presentation. I just want to comment on some of the things that we've seen in Winston-Salem when we went to their innovation district. And you mentioned about partnership and how key partnerships are. I think one thing that was stand out the most to me was this individual who made her own prom dress, I think it was, that she made. But when we talk about partnerships, they had a individual, I don't know what you call it, I guess it's something what Mayor Pro Tem does, that designed clothes, that came out there and volunteered and taught these individuals on an hourly and daily basis on how to do these things. When you talk about partnerships, how do we get, and another thing, we had another small organization that donated the computers. Somebody else that donated wood for them to do the wood shop. Somebody else that donated the metal shop. You listed your corporate partners. How do you get those small individual partners involved so this can be accessible to everybody in a whole bunch of different fields?
So I think that's something that, again, our consultant would help us with, and who they bring in and have conversations with, like Fayetteville Next, regular residents, if they have community engagement meetings, to identify those small business people that we could partner with to provide those types of resources.
Let me just add one more thing. I think it would be imperative to make sure that we have public transportation accessible to this location so everybody will have an opportunity to use this service.
Absolutely. That is one of the key findings of all kinds of studies that have been done, that staff research, that public transportation to the district from the outlying areas is very important, as is transportation within the district.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want to be able to go from point A to point B within that district very quickly, and you want it to be pedestrian friendly. Is it walkable? Is it bikeable? Again, if you park, where are the closest parking facilities? Does the bus come every 30 minutes or quicker to this district at various points from other areas of the city? Those are things that we would have to work through and plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Green, I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. When you started talking and when I reviewed this for our packet, my mind immediately went to NC State's Centennial Campus. I would like to see that studied a little more in depth. I think it's been a very successful venture. It's got every piece that you're talking about. It's yes, and I am a Wolfpack fan. So,
Sorry to hear
alma
that.
mater.
Yeah, very sorry.
It's okay. They won the game this weekend. And I rest my case. That's all I'm going to say.
We got to keep it above the belt, man. We got to keep it above the belt.
Exactly. But I certainly think, we all know that Research Triangle Park did it well. I mean,
Yes.
and to me, that's more of a joint venture in that triad area, thus the name. But even closer to home is the Centennial Campus, and it's been more recent. And I don't know about you, but it seems to me like it was not there one day, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was there, and then it just exponentially grew. I know there was a lot of planning that went in it, but I feel like there's a lot there that we could learn from.
Absolutely. I would love to know what consultant helped them pull all of that together. I think they might be a very valuable resource for us.
Would also add in along those lines as well, the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and I have had conversations as well. We've had, I think Councilman Harris can speak to this as well, we've had the Murchison Road corridor plan, which called for catalyst sites. We also had the Red Rock Global report that talked about a university district, family and friends district, and there have been other conversations most recently as well about vacant property in the area that could serve. And so I think between that, Catalyst Site 1, the university's plans and money to actually bring, I think it's their education building off of campus, that could really serve as an anchor, which is what happened at NC State when they moved the College of Textiles off of main campus. So all of those things, I think, as the Assistant City Manager said, are definitely the type of feedback that we're hoping to bring back to you some better consensus for your retreat, and which is at the end of January.
All right, Councilman Hondros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, ACM Oliveira, and staff for the great presentation. Just listening to the presentation and all the comments, when I think back to last year's strategic planning retreat, there was discussion about our identity as a city and kind of identifying who we are. And I think that kind of plays into what we're talking about here. During the presentation, the two things that kind of stood out to me that were a common theme, there was various cities with various innovation districts ranging from less than 2 acres to thousands of acres. So we have flexibility there as far as, do we want a tiny park, a huge park, or something in the middle? Also, some cities have various sites, so you can have 2 or 3 10-acre campuses in 2 or 3 different areas of the city, which is allows us that flexibility. But the two common themes were partners. Most of them had a nonprofit or some organization that was kind of running it, other than a university or a municipal government or county government. And then the second theme was, what are we innovating? So Research Triangle Park kind of has their identity, so identifying that, and I think having partners. Fayetteville Next was mentioned as a potential. We're blessed that we have Fayetteville State, we have Fayetteville Tech, and Methodist. There'd be obvious partners if they were willing to go in this with us. Also, FCDC, I think Robert Van Gien's and his team, and they're working on a incubator, for lack of a better word, of transitioning military. We got a lot of workforce that's trained, skilled in certain specific tasks. So I think, getting all these partners together and then identifying a nonprofit organization or some foundation that's going to run the thing and kind of put all this together. But I look forward to discussing this more at our strategic planning this year. But I think those are two questions kind of at the forefront, is identifying our partners, and then what are we trying to innovate? If the Project Arrow comes to fruition, it could be that we're innovating in that titanium and special metals field. With the military, it's logistics and other things. So I think working with those partners, FCDC, Fayetteville Next, and our post-high school learning, advanced learning, and transitioning military, that will kind of help us firm up exactly what this innovation district could be or should be. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Hondros. I just want to speak to that before I go to Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. So I think this is good timing because the study that the city authorized or instructed Robert's group to do with Mr. Abernathy identified the strengths that we have. So I think finding those sectors that align with what his research is a good starting point, but definitely having him at the table, as this thing moves forward. I did want to kind of corral the heads of some of those agencies that we were talking about, that they could talk to staff. Fayetteville State already, of course, and then PwC, FTCC, the hospital, Methodist, and the county. But getting Robert's team and Mr. Abernathy to kind of identify the sectors is a good thing. I agree with you. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to just kind of add to what many of you had mentioned. As a person who visited 49 states, I'm so happy that, yes, I have to throw that in there, so I've seen a lot. So I think this is a great thing for our city. It's time, but I do just want to mention that, we have a diverse community, so when we talk about bringing individuals to the table, we want to make sure that we also target our community as far as engagement, as far as our seniors, young adults, and even our youth. And we have to be open-minded, because what we might consider innovative, the youth might not consider that innovative. So we want to make sure that we target every age group to make sure that we're identifying how we want our community to be. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman, you trying to call us old?
This is a diverse council. Okay.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to be quick, and I want to piggyback off of what Councilmember Banks McLaughlin said. I think that when I first started my journey and I came in here, I realized that at one point that we had kind of forgotten about the youth. We walked on to council and there was one pool and one splash pad in Fayetteville. And I think this just goes in line with that we need to take hold of our youth and give them opportunities. And yes, and now we have the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council, and they would love to be part of that. So I will just say this is part of the step so we don't lose our youth and our young adults to other cities and all that talent. So I commend the council and thank you for wanting to make this move forward. And I think we need to put it on our top of our list. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman? Oh, wait a minute. Councilwoman Thompson, and then go back to Banks McLaughlin.
Manager Oliveira, you mentioned about policy change.
Yes, sir.
Being a policy chair, quickly, what changes were you talking about when you referred to ECD and UDO and housing?
So we would want to look at those policies as they exist now and make sure that the way the policies are written, that they are conducive to what we want to achieve in our innovation district. And are there little tweaks or changes that we could make that would make our innovation district more appealing and draw more partners to it?
Can you make sure that we're abreast of any changes that you want to make prior to us finalizing
absolutely,
those
sir.
policies?
Oh, yes, sir. Most definitely.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Councilwoman Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention military families. This was an item request, correct?
Yes,
and an
sir.
update?
It was brought
So-
forward by the mayor.
Right, okay, thank you, Mayor, for this, because we needed this. But what, the Orange Street School, I'm not familiar with the second floor plans.
So, if you remember during the discussion, I used Orange Street as an example because Microsoft had contributed the computers, but wasn't married to that. And so, once you all authorized staff to look further, main corridors, closer to connecting to universities and that kind of thing, I think they may be coming back with some other identified areas that also achieve a couple of goals. One is we were trying to connect and make sure resources got into underserved communities, distressed communities like the Murchison Road corridor, but it also connects downtown to Fort Liberty. And so I think staff will come back with that. Orange Street was just how we started it because of the computer. All right, Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to prepare to make a motion, but before I say that, as we look forward to doing this, do not forget about the east side. It's a gateway to the city, and we would love to have this on the east side. So without any more questions, no, sorry. The east side is in need. So
Started throwing up
whenever
representatives.
you're ready, I'm ready to make a
Sign.
motion.
North side, north side.
The east side is welcome
No
to
gang
this.
signs, please.
That's ours.
All right, y'all put your colors up. So, all right. So, Councilmember Davis, you said you had a motion to kind of receive the report, I guess. All right, the motion by Councilmember Davis to receive the report, seconded by Councilmember McNair. Discussion on receiving the report. All right, we look to you for your votes on that. Who we missing, Jen? Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. What you down there? All right, motion carries. All right.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you, Ms. Strickland.
Thank you, sir.
All right, 6102 Air Service Development Incentives. That's you again, ma'am?
And Deputy Director Watson. It's both of us. That's right.
Well, he got his colors mixed up, didn't he?
Oh, man. All right, let's see. Get up the presentation. Yep, it's up there.
Councilman McNair, is that a new, you got your button on? Oh, okay. What you and Jesus doing over there?
All right. Ready? Yes, sir. All right. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor Colvin and members of City Council. When I was sitting down, I noticed that I've yet to formally introduce myself. Therefore, I am Deontay Watson, the Deputy Airport Director at the Fayetteville Regional Airport. And today I'm here to discuss air service development at the Fayetteville Regional Airport. Just click that. Okay. Our regional airport is a hub to economic activity, generating employment, stimulating local businesses, and attracting investment. In 2023, Faye's economic output was $813 million, and in that, the airport generated $38.6 million in local and state taxes. Furthermore, most recently, the 2025 economic output preliminary values has been sent, and it seems as if the impact has been augmented. To further entice businesses and attract airline activity, the airport routinely works with the Federal Aviation Administration, NCDOT Division of Aviation, and our engineer and architectural consultants to keep our capital improvement program in line with forecasted changes within the aerospace industry. Now, I'm saying this because we've recently completed 3 phases of terminal renovations, putting ourselves in a position for new airline activity. Just this year, we've attended 2 air service development conferences where conversations were had with network planners and airline governmental relation teams. The aftermath of this was that we noticed a 100% jump in flights from Delta Airlines, equipment upgrades from American Airlines to include dual-class cabin airframes with first-class service, and increased conversations with a low-cost air carrier to add service to and from Faye. That low-cost air carrier was dependent on Faye to receive the Small Community Air Service Development Grant to help the company keep their startup costs low, meeting a healthy revenue guarantee within their first years of operating, their first 2 years of an operating agreement at Faye. Faye's Small Community Service Development application included an in-kind match of $149,000 from the airport, and also a local match of $24,000 from the NCDOT. Unfortunately, our review of these recipients from this grant indicated grants were awarded to airports where air service was discontinued entirely. These recipients also had applications with sizable local matches from their respective communities. And I know you're probably thinking, why could we not use the $1 million+ that the airport currently have in the savings account. And the answer to this is around Federal Grant Assurance 25, which directly states airports cannot directly subsidize air carriers with airport revenue. And in fact, it's unlawful. And doing so could jeopardize our current and future discretionary and entitlement grant funds coming into Faye. And the airlines are aware of these restrictions, and on or as needed basis, most low-cost air carriers look for airports to strategically outsource additional help to become business partners with airports. In this slide you're looking at is a comparison of pre-COVID passenger traffic to recovery years, calendar year to date. Looking at May of 2019, American was still operating 7 flights per day as of year to date, while Delta was at 5 flights per day, with 3 additional frequencies occurring every Saturday, putting them at 38 flights per week in 2019, compared to their only 28 flights per week today. And even though the current numbers are lower than 2019, the number and type of airframe offered from our current airlines put the Fayetteville Regional Airport at capacity in terms of seats delivered. Therefore, attracting additional air service from a low-cost air carrier would support current demand that could be potentially lost due to leakage due to inadequate travel opportunities. And now here's the big ask or request. As mentioned in the previous slides, almost every recipient of the federal Small Community Air Service Development Grant was fiscally supported by local help to incentivize airline growth. Now, while the airport is fiscally sound, the airport is also fiscally regulated in terms of expenses, while directly subsidizing an airline is one of those restrictions. The airport currently has an incentive package, which is to foster growth and support new nonstop services in unserved markets. These incentives include waiving landing fees for 1 year, a local advertising campaign of up to $50,000 over a 12-month period for daily services to and from Faye, and free use of ground loading and passenger boarding bridges in both concourses supporting daily operations. In addition to this package, we are working on a strategic air service development plan benchmarking successful airports within our region. In this new plan, we would like to amplify our current incentive package to include a minimal revenue guarantee level, which will have operating qualifications in order for us to distribute the funds. This is where we need help or support from our esteemed city council. By allocating up to $400,000 in city funds for a new nonstop service would allow our community to have more travel options supporting the demand for leisure, business, and military travel. The funds would only be used during a predefined period captured in an executed operating agreement, and only if the airline meets negotiated minimum daily turns occurring to and from Faye. The other preliminary qualification will be the airline becoming a signatory air carrier, which is entering into a long-term contractual obligation at the Fayetteville Regional Airport. That concludes my presentation, and I appreciate your time and ongoing support of Faye's continued growth, and I'm open to questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Do have a couple questions. Mayor Pro Tem Jensen, Councilmember Benavente, Hare, Benavente, Thompson, Green, myself. So looks like a round robin. Mayor Pro Tem, it's on you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be quick. So I know that they are asking for $400,000, and I have more of a statement than I do a question, and you were with me in this meeting that I think that we were in. A lot of work has been put into this, and there's a lot of airlines that are very interested in Fayetteville, and I know there's 3 in particular and 2 really wanting to come. So just to give you an example of how much it takes, New Bern, to get a new carrier in, they had to do this same thing, and they did not get the grant. So their private sector went out and did a fundraising to get this airline that we are looking at and have met with probably 4 or 5 times. I know personally, I've talked to them 3 or 4. They raised, I think it was $1.2 million. Can I say? Okay. So what I will say is that the public sector came in and said, you know, we want this so bad that they gave $1.2 million to this fund, and we're asking for $400. So it's something that I feel that we need to look at, or we're going to stay with American Airlines and Delta. Is that?
That's accurate, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Hare.
Thank you, Mayor, and Mr. Watson, thank you for your presentation. I mean, of course, just like I assume some of you, but the mayor, I mean, I like the concept, I like the idea. I have a few heartburn issues, and one was just stated by Mayor Pro Tem that if we go through all of the objectives that they're requesting, to include the 400,000, even though it's not $1.5 million, it's still 400,000. And many of us scream about things that we need done in the district. So I mean, but I understand. Now, don't take it the wrong way in what I'm saying. But but to meet all of the objectives with the strong possibility of still not receiving the big objective. And that's an issue for me. And then if we were to go through with it,
That's who it is.
to have, to waive the fees, the landing fees, whatever that amount is, this was new for me to receive tonight, so I would like to know that. Maybe you can shoot an email or something. I didn't know what that cost is. But to waive that and whatever other incentives and not to receive it, that's you know, that little unsturdiness for me in my thought pattern with so many things that we as council members individually are seeking throughout the city, and especially when we talk about ward objectives. We all have ward objectives, and we can't seem to get any closer to them. But so you understand where I'm coming from. I'm with you, but I'm struggling with some things inside.
Yes, sir. So a request to use non-airport revenue is not
Unless there's some
something-
grant funding that we can use that 400,000 from.
Which that we could. That was what the SCASD grant was for, which again we did not get. And once we found out who had won, it became very apparent. 2 things: they were giving the award back to people to get them closer to pre-COVID. And while we haven't fully rebounded from COVID, we're better than other places. Another thing that stood out to us when we looked at the recipients was the amount of non-airport revenue that they were pledging as their local match for the SCASD grant. To ask you guys for money to support the airport is something that we do not take lightly. Please know that, because having been in budget, I know the scarcity of revenues that are not in an enterprise fund and the value that comes with that. We would not just give this money to an airline. They would have to earn it. If they don't come and they don't provide the service, they don't get the money. They don't get the minimum revenue guarantee.
And the airport does so well anyway in producing their own budget, not coming directly from the city. So they do very well, but I understand because of the type of granting and I guess the federalness that's in it, they can't use their own money,
Yes, sir.
according to what we just heard.
It is absolutely forbidden by FAA.
So, Council, I want to clear up a couple of things. So, and ACM Strickland, maybe you can help speak to this. So the 400,000, we don't know if that can be used to lure one or maybe two. If
That's
this is
correct.
funding up to that for the program. And so what we're being asked to do now is something that we have never done.
That is correct.
Right. It has never been done to create, just like when we go to economic development and we want to lure somebody here based on something. So this is to establish a program, and they've got guidelines that if they don't check all of the boxes to commit to be here and to do some other things, then they don't get it. So I think this setting aside is not necessarily saying you're spending 400. It's just authorizing them to create a process that hopes to lure two of those three that have shown interest. You know, I went to Jumpstart and to another airport meeting in Richmond and in Milwaukee last year. And as you made your way around, you get 11 minutes to talk. Well, you get to talk to 11 of them for 2 or 3 minutes. That was the common theme, is that, you know, there was no additional investment given by the city. You know, it is efficient. It takes care of itself, but is it going to get us to the next level? So,
And Mr. Mayor, I would even ask if Deputy Director or Kelly knows, what is the economic impact of the airport? 784?
No, sir. That's incorrect.
Please.
813 million.
Oh, just a few $1 million more, okay.
Million
and so that on top of the 60 million we spent on phase one?
That 60 million in all 3 phases of terminal renovations. Yes.
And aren't we planning another ribbon cutting soon?
Yes.
Please announce that as well.
Yes, we are. Yep.
When?
We are working with our marketing specialist. Should be here in a couple more weeks. Yep, and you guys should hear it. You should guys.
December 13th? Alex just said December 13th
Yep.
at 2.
And the ribbon cutting is for
Phase 3.
3.
and which includes what?
Phase
Concourse
3
B.
Yep, phase 3 includes a expansion on Concourse B, accommodating more seating for larger airframe. We also redid the roofing on Concourse B and the baggage claim area, and we're in the process of adding a Fly Fayetteville sign on top of the building for more, marketing advertising.
So you're flying over
Yeah, yep.
all right. So we do have few more questions we need to get to. Councilman Benavente, Thompson, Green, McNair, Banks, McLaughlin, the 49 State Traveler, and Hondros.
Is it just 400? I'm trying to understand the 400K incentive, and maybe I just misunderstand it, because you also mentioned not charging for some certain things for the first year.
So that's already part of our existing incentive plan that we offer.
Okay, so it's not 400K plus not charging for a bunch of
It
things.
would be, but all of those are things that we already offer as incentives. So the 400K is in addition to those incentives that we already offer.
Can we just make a note somewhere that I'd like a better understanding of that true cost then, the true total dollar figure? I know you're saying that there's some
Absolutely.
things that are already made available to anybody right now as it stands.
Right.
But I'd like to understand exactly what the value of those things are also going to translate into.
Yes, sir.
And then you guys are bringing this to us, which is, sooner is always better than later. I'm trying to also understand, when will this be put into the context of our budget next year? Or is this something you guys are going to talk about more during strategic planning? Or is this something closer to June, July for the budget stuff?
So depending on how it is received by any airlines, we might come back and address it again during the budget season. If you allocate the $400,000, we would probably offer $200,000 and $200,000 for 2 different low-cost carriers is
Okay.
what we're hoping to get.
Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding then. You want 400,000 released when again? Or made available to you?
As soon as possible. We would not actually encumber those funds until we had an agreement
Certainly.
with a low-cost carrier. But you would give us that authorization to pursue those negotiations with a low-cost carrier.
So the expectation is we do that today?
No, sir. We don't have an appropriation action ready for you today. I would need to confer with budget. But if there was an appropriation action, we could potentially have it ready on the December 9th agenda.
This coming Monday?
Yes, sir. We have an Air Service Development Conference coming up, and would like to be able to let folks know that we are hopeful of getting here for air service, that we now offer that.
So maybe definitely let's have a better idea of what we're not going to charge for before Monday. Then maybe that could just be an
Okay.
email.
Yes, sir.
And then two other things when you guys are going out shopping, when we were, or selling us, however you want to put it, we were at a conference and a discussion came about with some regional airports and the burgeoning market that is payload deployment, where some regional airports, instead of worrying about moving people back and forth, are talking about launching things to the International Space Station, and that there is a lot of great incentive to cities to store these, these vehicles that can be taxed and are sitting there, and that's another burgeoning market here in North Carolina. In fact, is that something that you guys have been seeing as well, or is that something that you guys have come across your desk?
It hasn't come across mine. That doesn't mean that it hasn't come across Mr. Lagala, our airport director, or Mr. Watson.
Not yet.
Okay.
However, we're in the process of updating our airport master plan to with the consultant, and that may be something that may be added to the.
Yeah, maybe this is beyond the scope of this discussion, but we're fighting over airlines for sure. But there's a lot of things that airports are making money doing, to include, again, not just left and right, but up and down.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's something that if we're incentivizing, let's think about who we're incentivizing. Maybe it can be more than just the small airlines. And then lastly, and this may be again beyond the scope, but I think it's worth discussing when we're talking about how much money we're looking at investing. And the comment was made earlier about private investment, and how that's been successful for other communities. When we're talking about the left and right extremes, isn't one of the extremes also selling the airport and having somebody come in and make the investment privately into bringing in carriers?
That would absolutely be up to council's will.
But now, is that something that is going to be a part of the conversation between now and Monday? Probably not.
No, sir. We haven't had any consensus from council that there's an interest to do that.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask is because, again, when we think about how other airports have gone from, one or two airlines to many more, there's several directions to get there, and so is it that you guys need direction from council to be considering that? Because again, if you're selling this incentive package, what's the likelihood that you said you guys are going to some kind of event soon that you guys want to be able to showcase this?
An Air Service Development Conference, yes, sir.
Are there not people there that'll say, yeah, we could also just really put a lot of money, billions, into just buying it outright and then bringing a lot of more airlines? I mean, isn't it conceivable that at that occasion somebody will come and make that offer to us?
That would be outside of the realm of anything I've ever seen at an Air Service Development Conference, sir. Usually it is airports and network planners from the airlines, and that's who you meet and talk with. There are some networking opportunities, but there's not a booth set up with someone who says, I want to buy your airport, I want to buy your airport, I'm here to talk to you about, can I buy your airport? It is, the few vendor booths that are there are really about technology that airports are evolving towards. And then you're stacked back to back with just meeting with network planners for the airlines.
Has anyone ever approached us about purchasing the airport?
To my knowledge, no.
I think it was a concession, is what you're calling it. A concession. It's not an outright purchase. I think there were some folks that couple councils ago that talked about they did that at JFK. They manage it. They're not outright buying the asset. Yeah.
Has anything like that ever come across the city manager's desk or been offered to the city?
To my knowledge, no, sir.
City
I'm
Manager
not
Hewitt?
aware.
Similar to what the mayor said, I was aware that there had been some conversations, but nothing formal to my office.
I just, we know that we've got a tough budget season ahead of us. And I just think it's worthwhile to think of just all of the potential directions of making the outcome the same, which is we want Fayetteville Regional Airport to have so many options that people make it a choice and a preference to go there. The way we do that, this is a way, right? This is a way to grow that, maybe in an organic fashion. But, are there some, GMOs that can grow us faster and not cost us $400,000? In fact, we'll be making money when somebody makes an offer. I think those are relevant considerations. I don't know if we should just be told there's only one way to go about it. I want to know if there's more between now and Monday. Probably not likely, but just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you,
sir.
All right, Councilman Thompson and Green and McNair and Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I got you. John.
Let me start from the beginning. Thank you for the report. I think as the city grows, our airport needs to grow. I think as everybody is talking about the $400,000, first let me recollect, if I can, some of the questions that I was asking the ACM as I was sitting back and y'all was giving this presentation. One is the Fayetteville Airport is at its capacity at 80%, correct?
That's correct.
So we need more airlines. Two is part of our strategy is to grow the city by growing the airport. As long as I've been on council, that's all we've talked about was getting more flights here, more flights there. This is one way to do it. I believe we just hired a new director, Mr. Andrew. This is his direction on how he wants us to move forward as I attended that briefing. As we talked about funds, our general fund should be at 12%. I think we're at 16% from the closeout from the CIP projects, so we don't have to worry about this come budget time. We have enough money to fund it now. This is one-time funding that you're only asking $400,000 for, and it's not going to be used until the company decides that they're going to perform as we ask them to perform. I'm in support of this project. I'm in support of expanding our airport. I think you guys are doing a great job in giving our citizens the best experience that they can, especially with the new innovation project that you're having on the 13th. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What kind of criteria do we use to determine when we're looking at 2 or 3 different airlines at one time? What kind of criteria do we look at? I know that outbound flights and outbound numbers as well as inbound numbers play a huge role in that. I think I know that. The other thing I kind of would like to hear you guys discuss is where those flights are going. Because I think that we know always in the past, economic development pretty much has looked at, okay, we have a huge military population who needs to get to DC. They have a preference over which airport they land at. So I know that that's a factor. I would assume that the other factor would be we have a units at Fort Liberty that are closely associated with Tampa. So I would imagine our Tampa, the ultimate destination to Tampa would be a larger number. So how do we look at those things and know that we're making good decisions?
So we do have a leakage study that we just had done. It did support one of the direct flights that we have been approached by one of the low-cost carriers, one of those destinations. The other destination is more of a leisure type destination, but certainly we could hear the interest of council if there are parameters around, specific destinations that you would like included. We could certainly incorporate that in. DC, right at the moment, has not been in the forefront of our conversations with low-cost carriers that they have come to us with. Unfortunately, the state of the aviation industry right now, after COVID, the bargaining chips are not ours. They are the airlines. And so they come to us and tell us what they would like from us. They come to us and tell us where they would like to go from Fayetteville. And that's industry-wide. It's not just Fayetteville, it's every regional airport of our size. And to Councilmember Benavente's point about the incentives that we already offer, those are all standard things that every other regional airport in the nation offers. There's nothing new or shiny or interesting about it. It is just the minimum that an airline would expect if they were looking to start new air service from our airport. And that is why we've seen more and more regional airports start using minimum revenue guarantees.
Right. Well, it would just seem to me, I'm not in the airline industry, but it would just seem to me that if they would be wanting to look at both inbound and outbound, because potentially you'd want as many people coming in as you had going out.
Yes.
And vice versa. So I'm sure they've done their research, or let's hope they have. But I just didn't know on our end, you know, I mean, they certainly have the tools to look at ridership and where those people are going.
Right.
Granted, when we leave out of Fayetteville, we're going to Atlanta or Charlotte. That's a given.
Right.
But where do we go beyond that?
Right.
You know,
So
where am I connecting to? Why am I going
Right.
there, and where am I going when I get there? So,
And that is part of our leakage study, and we do track that. We have a lot of metrics. What is that one thing?
So I think the question you're asking is within those direct connections to those two hubs, Charlotte and Atlanta, passengers have the opportunity to get to I think it's 680 nonstop destinations once they connect to those hubs from Fayetteville.
And we do track that. What is that software that we use?
Placer AI.
Placer AI tells us if someone originates a flight out of Fayetteville, where is their ultimate destination?
yeah,
And
that's
we
kind
track
of what.
that.
Yeah,
And
I just wanted to skip to that second number because it does make sense that a carrier would want it to make sense as well. So,
Absolutely. And they do look at the passenger loads on our existing flights. They do look at the Placer AI information as well as our leakage study information.
okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Councilmember McNair.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mayor. That's not funny. Thank you guys for the report. I see wings on you.
See what?
Do I see wings growing on you? Wings? The mayor. Actually, I like the idea.
Right now.
You growing them? I like the idea of growth because when I have to drive to Raleigh, even though I love to drive,
You don't drive to Raleigh. No council member drives to Raleigh to catch a flight.
I don't. I don't. I don't have to. No, ma'am. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for the report. In the growth aspect of this whole process here. Look, I put my foot in my mouth. But thank you, though.
Thank you, ma'am.
I was actually wanting to hear more from our mayor over there about this initiative.
You would catch me with the food in my mouth, huh? I'll come back. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mayor. Although I know the answer, but I just want those who are listening, how would this benefit our city? Getting additional airlines?
I mean, you just increase, the travel options. You have increased economic output because this will bring in more jobs. You need ramp handlers, you need ticket counter folks, and then those people that are getting those jobs, it'd be like a multiplier factor. Once they come here and live in Fayetteville, they're going to spend money, and businesses, gas, hotels, So it just increased that economic output here in the
Okay,
city.
right. I knew that. I just wanted you to just state that, for the record. I am in support of the $400,000 incentive. And I think that the technology that you guys were talking about, that's something great to have. We talk about innovative. We just voted on that just a few minutes ago. We talk about how we want our city to grow and be innovative, and we've invested a lot of money so far within, at the airport, so that we can get to this point where we're getting, hopefully, additional airlines. We're increasing our ridership and destinations. The only question I have is USO, and I think I've had that conversation before. When or how can we go about expanding the times for USO? Because I know that's something that's important for military families when traveling.
Yep. And we can speak to our USO manager. Okay. It's all, it all depends on the daily operations at the airport. And I think those USO workers, because those are volunteers that come assist our average of 6,000 soldiers a month that use that USO program. However, we can work for ways to, get or recruit more volunteers to support the USO.
Okay, thank you. And if there's no, I think what you had questions. If
Yeah,
not,
I've got Hondros, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Hondros.
Mr. Mayor, if you want to answer council members' question, I was just prepared to make a motion.
Okay, so you and Councilmember Banks McLaughlin got to
We're gonna
fight
share
over
it.
that. All right, so, council, as we talk about this, what were those economic impact numbers that Doug got wrong?
813 million economic output.
So just too short of $1 billion in economic impact. I don't know that any other city department generates that kind of impact. But not to disparage it, but you look at that's 4 times our budget almost. And I think that investing in new airlines and more employments and easier connectivity helps us with everything. So. Again, they're coming back to us once and if they find someone interested in this, they'll come back, say, Council, we want to execute this agreement. We'll have the option to accept the terms of it or not. But just setting this aside enables and empowers them to go and tell people, hey, listen, our city council has authorized us to offer you something. Are you interested? And that's where we are with the conversation today. So I hope I got that for you, Councilwoman. All right. Council member, is it Banks McLaughlin or Hondros going to do this? Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
I move to receive the presentation and direct staff to bring an appropriation ordinance for local funding of an MRG incentive program to the next regular council meeting and present details of the program to council at a future work session.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, and seconded by Hondros. And any discussion on that? Councilmember Thompson, I see your light.
Did we put a dollar figure on that motion, or?
If it's consistent with the CAM, it's up to 400, right? Was that okay?
Thank you so much. I did want to make a point, but we're already on the floor. But as I listened to the briefing from Mr. Andrew, I think one thing that is imperative for everybody to hear is that he mentioned the small airlines that did receive the grant and we didn't. I think it's important to note that everybody that received the grant had seed money, and we didn't. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, Council, look to you for action on the Banks McLaughlin Hondros. Who are we missing, Ms. Jen? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Watson, Ms. Oliveira.
Thank you, Council.
All right. So, Council, moving to the next item, 6.03. Update on the Hurley Plaza. Birthday boy.
I'm telling you. Thank y'all.
He done had about 5 birthdays since we started this thing.
Be happy to hear Mayor and the esteemed council.
Getting wiser with his old age.
I'm telling you. Jennifer, where is this?
It's his birthday.
I'm telling you.
He's a senior now.
I can't even see good.
How old are you?
60.
I say,
wow.
is the old age difference?
You're supposed to be going somewhere. It's a milestone.
I'm telling you. They made me come here. All right, council.
Get it started.
What we have here, council members, mayor, are going to be a series of projects that have been sitting around, and we want to close these out. We think that we have pathways to success. The first one here is the Hurley Plaza project update. If you can look at the monitors, you can see that in our phase one, and let me get you here is the plaza. And most people know, because we've had a successful baseball environment for the past probably 6 to 7 years, always being probably in the number one attendance in minor league baseball. So we've done a pretty good job of making sure that our business partner does a good job. And this plaza area has always been one of the ones that we've sort of sat back on. There's been iterations of what it should look like. We've had some issues with facilities next door to it. But the plaza has always been a place where people seem to like to be before entering the baseball stadium. There's always some conversation there. So what we want to do is complete this with the intentions of what it was intended to be, with a few modifications. We've had a few conversations with our fire department, our safety environment, making sure that people, when they're in the plaza, there aren't any pedestrian cars that come through and could hurt somebody. So you can see some phases that we have here. But what we'd like to do is go with the decorative baseballs. If you can see in this picture here, going down the plaza area, that sort of symbolizes what the environment is about. On the steps, you can see there are going to be three big baseballs, 36 inches in diameter, and then some plantings, some sod, some fencing, and then we would come back with another phase of crash ballers, just to make sure that people are safe when they're milling around in that environment. So that's the first one with the Hurley Plaza, and we'd look for some kind of consent, or if there's any kind of questions, for us to go ahead and finish that out and make that plaza a nice area to be in. Any questions?
I'm not sure if you mentioned it. Did you mention that when consultation with
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and that's, I appreciate the manager. We've made sure that the baseball stadium is in total agreement with what the plaza area would look like.
Oh, Councilman here.
Yeah, I see on the schematic where it has Hurley, I see on the schematic where it says Hurley Ballpark entrance. So is that where we're going? I'm trying to visualize where I'm going to see it.
Now, I have
As I
another
walk-
presentation that's going to show you where
Okay.
we're going to put that one at. There's in
Okay.
this whole dynamics. So you'll see that in a up and coming
Okay. Okay.
presentation. Any other questions on this one?
Okay, Councilmember Hondros, and then, did you get your button? Okay, and then Banks McLaughlin. Councilmember Hondros?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Director Gibson. You mentioned there was multiple iterations of this throughout the years. Was there one that had a water feature or a fountain of some sort,
Yes, it was.
and we removed that
Well, yes, it has been, and I wanted to make sure.
for funding, or?
Well, that a little bit of that too, because we've had it for a while, and the funding has gone up, so the budget doesn't suit the what we intended. But also, the baseball environment would like to have a more pedestrian environment where that didn't play in. They like the space more now, so people have more milling around before they go into the baseball stadium. So that's been sort of X'd out.
And then on the site plan you have there with the location of the bollards. So, and you mentioned that we got feedback from our first responders, fire and police. That little paved area from Hay Street to in front of the stadium down to Ray Avenue or Maiden Lane, wasn't that supposed to be where ambulances and fire trucks can drive in? Would the bollards preclude that? Are they removable?
No, sir,
or-
they're removable. You can push them down or take them
Gotcha.
out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure. I mean, let me tell you, they make sure that. They make
Okay,
sure.
just making sure. All right, thank you, sir.
Is fire in the house? Oh, there, Chief Dove.
Councilmember Banks McLaughlin?
Thank you. I was just gonna say, so far, I mean, everything looks great, but what's the anticipated timeframe?
Well, if the council gives us consensus, we would definitely have all of this work done before the next baseball season.
All right, let's see who else. Do we have another? Oh, yeah. Michael,
What's that?
supposed to be presenting.
No, that's it right there. This is it. There's only 3 slides. And I think what the council member here was looking at was the Hurley Plaza monument that we have sitting in the corner there, which we'll talk about in a few more minutes.
Councilmember Davis, you had?
Yes.
You had something, Councilmember Davis?
Are you presenting that other information on the next item or
Next item.
next
Yes.
item?
There,
Okay.
There'll be another one. We have the Mayor Finch and the Hurley Monument sign next.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion to receive? Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to receive the reports.
And
Thank you.
direct staff to
And
proceed.
authorize them to push it forward. I mean, I think they're asking for permission to move forward, correct?
Yes,
And
exactly.
authorize
That's
and direct
exactly what
staff to
we're
move
asking.
forward with this.
Because
Thank
they
you.
do have to, you have coordinated this with the Woodpecker schedule.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, you got to order all this stuff, and it needs to get in so we can go ahead and install it before, because once they start their baseball season, that's a rough crowd.
All right, so there's a motion by Councilmember Davis, a second by Councilmember Hare. Discussion on that motion to receive and instruct staff to proceed. All right. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin?
Say, I see benches. Is that just in the picture, or do we plan on putting some benches?
There might be a couple, but we're not going to install that many at all.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
just
we are gonna
more of
police a couple of them, because I know.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right. Council, look to for action on that. All right. Motion is unanimous. All right, Mr. Gibson?
All right, next one
Get to
is
work.
the memorial signs proposal. This is there were a couple of motions made a few years ago for turning Hurley Plaza, which we just finished talking about, and then what was formerly known as Lafayette Park or Cross Creek Park off of Green Street into Beth Finch Park for our first woman mayor. And we believe that this marble granite sign would be the way that we would want to present to you, that we would want to memorialize the work that they've done and the contributions that they've made to this community. It's black marble, their names inscribed. We can still put their face on there and some wording that would probably go through our marketing and communication to make sure that was done correctly. But this is another proposal that we're asking council to approve so we can move forward with getting this done. I only got one slide.
All right, council, any questions or comments on that? Councilmember Hare, is that a question?
No, sir, you've called me.
Councilman Benavente, is that new? Okay.
You said that this was an effort, long-standing effort. Is that what you said? That these someone's been working on this for a long time. We're just finally getting around to it.
Well, there were 2 kinds of signage that we were thinking about doing at the time, but then we've come to this conclusion that we believe this is the best way to memorialize and just move on with it.
Mr. Manager, you had something to add?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Michael didn't mention fully that in addition to trying to close out the projects, we're also trying to make sure that we do it in a timely fashion. So
Yes.
as Michael was, the item that just came for Hurley Plaza, the physical improvements around the bollards and the other things for pedestrian safety, once that is in place, we then are able to designate, as Councilmember Hare was looking at, this is the location for the plaza, the monument. Still got a lot of ways to go about what that looks like, private fundraising with city's money. But the first item allows for definition of the second. And my hope is that when we open up the plaza, the first item, with the small ribbon cutting before baseball season starts, that we'd also be able to officially designate specifically to anybody else who's not looking at the slides that location. Ditto for Mayor Finch's park, which council has already designated within is it Lafayette Park?
Yes. Well, it's Cross Creek Park on the front
Within
side.
Cross Creek Park.
Yeah, that was the one I was more interested in.
But what's not there at the moment is not a sign.
No, there's not.
And so unless council has some concern, being that it is representative, as the mayor said, of our only female mayor, we might, if council's approval, look to have that installed if we can, or some designation ready for March, which is Women's History Month, I think.
Is there a proposed signage on that one?
Yeah, it'll be just like this one, just with Mayor Beth Finch on it.
That same, like not obelisk, but that same sort of,
The black marble.
yeah.
But one of the things too that we, and we've looked at the pricing for this too, that we
Yes.
believe within the funding. More funding, additional details, and because the families are still very active in the community, we would of course, I think we've made them aware that we were going to have this conversation today. And I think that there are also private fundraising efforts from them to also make the monuments or the memorials even more than just the name that you see on the sign, on the marker, rather.
I was just curious, when was all that decided?
Which portion, sir?
I mean, these are just, Hurley Plaza is just improving what's already there, but then the other one, you said that was something that was decided by a previous council, that's what it would be memorialized after?
Yes.
Oh, not that long ago.
No.
And the minutes are included, but I think Mayor Pro Tem, was that 2021?
It was either 2021 or 20, it must have been 2021.
It's 21.
21, yes. We started out with the Hurley Plaza after he passed, and the group came to us, and we had, I was not on the
Who was
committee.
the group?
It was, I guess, friends, it was a group of Mr. Hurley's people had came. And I was not part of that committee. Jim Arp was part of that committee, and I ended up getting that committee by default. And we went back and forth. They were doing some fundraising. We finally found the place that we wanted it. And as we were discussing all this with Mayor Hurley, I realized that Beth Finch, Mayor Finch, did not have anything, and she was the mayor before him. So then we started having conversations with her family, and it's just circling back around. We kind of waited because we were wondering, waiting to do what we needed to do there. So we have just said, here we are. And it's basically the same as what the city funded for J.L. Dawkins. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's less money than what was paid.
Yeah, this will be, yeah.
I think J.L. Dawkins was like $56,000.
It was a little bit, yep.
56,000 years and years ago.
Years ago.
And so this comes under budget. They both were great mayors, and I feel that we need to move forward and to close the book on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just wanting to understand the history of it because, oftentimes we don't ask, I think, the necessary questions about how things got to the point, and we kind of just say, hey, this was said 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or just 3 years ago. I just want to make sure that, people who've since been elected are able to essentially be in consensus with what was decided previously. So that was the reason for my asking and what the process was. It sounds like there was some kind of committee for Hurley, and then that same committee did the Finch stuff, or a separate committee was created?
No. It was brought to a council member request, and the council approved it, and we approved the spot, we approved the name, and this is to close it out.
How much was it again?
For this signage right here,
Not the Hurley one, the new one, the Finch one.
it'll be the same, probably about 15 to 20,000.
And then we have to give you a green light today?
That's what I was hoping.
All right, no further questions.
All right. Councilman Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gibson, how much room is on that property? Or is there enough room for how many more?
When you, which property are you talking about?
Plaza, Hurley Plaza.
Well, once you put this up, that's all the room. There won't be any more room for another sign. Is that what you're
Right.
asking? No, sir. Once you designate it, that's it now.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, Councilmember Hondros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move motion and consensus for City Council to receive this report and provide or instruct staff to move forward with the project.
All right, there's a motion by Councilmember Hondros, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Discussion? I think we've had plenty. All right. Look to you for your vote. All right, motion carries. Good job, council. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Let's get some signs up.
Yes, sir.
For these
Will do.
great citizens and mayors.
I agree.
All right, council, moving to 6.05, update on Parks and Rec project bond, Cape Fear River Park portion.
Here's another one, council, that's been on with the bond that was passed back in 2016, the Cape Fear River Park. This one has gone through some changes, some iterations, and I think we've come to a consensus, and we're looking for that same thing from this body. This is the property that we have. It's about 13 acres that sits between Broad Street, Person Street, and what we call Highway 24. It's right on the river, and we've gone through some changes, some budgeting. We believe that we've come to what the budget can stand as it is now. We're working with an architectural firm, and they've come back with these plans. Essentially, it's working with the church with the parking lot that you can see and then doing some green spaces, some roundabouts, mainly having a green space with a nice, clean environment down on the river so people can enjoy it. We believe that the items that we've selected turns that 13 acres into, and you can call it a first phase, but it turns that area into a nice place for people to go. We've always been criticized for not embracing our waterways. I think this is an opportunity to make that change, and with the funding that we have available, move forward with council's blessing. Here are some of the cost estimations that we have from our from hardscape to softscape. Some direct costs here. We believe that with the funding that we have available, we're right around 1.4 to get all this work done, and just clean up that environment and start that engine for maybe some other investors to come in and say, yeah, this looks nice. Here's what we believe some of the options could be once we start to move forward with the first phase, and then we could start adding some value as funding became available. This is for your questions that I can answer. Looking for the same type of consensus for us to go ahead and move forward with the architect, and then bring this back and say, yes, we believe we can get this done with the budget that we have.
All right, Councilman Hare.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr.
Birthday boy.
I was trying to say, I didn't want to say, call you birthday boy at 60
That's all right.
years
That's
old.
all right.
Birthday man.
Mr. Birthday guy.
I'm used to the abuse.
Are we looking to make this look, and are we looking at like just green space beautification right now?
Yes.
As the first step, sort of like what we had done in the beginning entrance of the Merchant Road Quarter on the
Yes, sir.
northern end
Now,
here.
this might be it might be a little bit more of an upgrade, just because the land lays itself to some decent grading, some real nice green space. You have better views here, so we could turn this into a nice green space where people could come down and just sit. And then we would put in some infrastructure so that we could continue to move this forward in a better
But
place for a
basically
river.
green space
Yes,
type
sir.
setting until we are able to move forward.
More like a festival park.
Okay.
It'll have a little bit more sophistication to it.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, got a lot of questions. Councilmember Benavente Davis, Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Gibson, as the Parks and Recs Board looked at this and Was there anything noteworthy that came out of that?
Well, I mean, normally it comes to this group first, and then I would take it to the council. They have the master plan of what we're trying to do, and I update them, and you have your liaison here, so she can correct me.
Who's that?
Ms. Green.
Oh.
But from a overall arching, the advisory board understands what we've been trying to do down on the river. So once this is approved, then I would take them back and take this back to them and show them exactly what we have and what you have approved, and then we would move forward.
When you say what we've approved, are you saying that like we kind of narrow the options for them so that they kind of stay within a particular, left to right extreme, or?
No, what the budget can afford.
Okay.
I mean, and one of the things that happens with this is, based on the funding that we have, this is the basic package, and you can always add to this. And if you look at this next option where we bring in a bridge and you can do a looping trail, one of the biggest things that we would have in here is eventually get to a pavilion so you could do events down on the river. But, the funding doesn't allow it. But that would still be in the master plan. We would sort of make sure that the infrastructure is there.
And could you say again what the timeline was around this?
Well, if this is approved, then we would go back to the architect and said, yes, we have consensus by council. Please move forward. The first phase would be this environment right here. That would be up to about 1.4 million, which we believe the architect could bring those numbers into, and then we would move forward with that phase.
And as we're phasing this, through different levels, what sort of pre-planning or anticipation have you guys had on trespassing, unhoused folks occupying these spaces? Has that discussion occurred just yet?
We always discuss it, but it's no different than what we have in our downtown parks. We have a policy of dawn to dusk, and that would be the same thing. Once you develop the park, then you would still have to enforce what the council's rules are about being in parks after dark. It would be no different.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Banks Davis.
Yes, sir. I was just preparing to make a motion. But
All right, I'll make sure we
there's more
circle back to
questions.
you for that. This is your district. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
Not before I make it. No. I'm messing with
Oh,
you.
y'all rough today.
No, I'm just messing with them. Thank you for the presentation. I know before we talked about with the Cape Fear River Park. I know this is the first phase, but is there potential room to connect with the trail like what they call like an exercise station, different stations? Or can we already use that for?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, we're having conversations internally about that. Be careful. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just saying if it's room to come back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I want. Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilman McNair.
I'm good. I was speaking with my councilman over here about, I was trying to visualize exactly where this was located, but we had a conversation over here, and I'm kind of clear right now, I think.
Okay.
All right, Councilmember Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gibson, I just have a small question. As I was in Tampa, I was noticing their, I guess you can call it their river walk or ocean walk, whatever it was, and it probably extended 5 or 6 miles from our hotel to a nice place that I took my wife for dinner. As they was growing, more things were added. As I was talking to this guy who was doing the live performance, where some policies need to be changed. Will you run into that difficulty?
No doubt.
As you forward think on what it will look like?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, anytime.
So what can we prepare for now to preclude you from having to go through that hurdle?
It depends on the elements that you allow in the park as we grow. And if we develop the master plan as it was intended, I think there would be other decisions that the council would have to make as we grow. I mean, you could even go to as much as private investment.
Right.
And how you would handle that as we start to open up our waterways like most communities do.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
I have one more question, Mayor Colvin.
Mr. Benavente, hold on, let me make sure I've gotten everybody. Councilmember Hare, was your button pushed again? No, I was going to support. All right, Councilmember Benavente.
Is there any issues currently with encampments around this area presently?
Yes.
Could you say more about that?
Well, I mean, there are people who are there who should not be. We are working on how to solve that issue, and I think once you start to develop, that'll be a decision that we'll have to make if council says yes to this, and we'll have to do something with that because they can't be there in a construction site. So we would have to move forward with that not being there.
How many folks are we talking?
Probably about 25.
Is Mr. I'm terrible with names, y'all. We have a gentleman who's typically in charge of the Mr. Brooks.
Brooke, is that you back there?
Mr. Redding?
Okay.
Could you speak at all to the current situation? I'm sure this is on your radar already.
Thought you were getting away, huh?
Yes, sir. So yeah, there's approximately 20 to 30 individuals residing in unsheltered encampments in that region. We have consistent risk mitigation happening with the PD Cares team and engagement with those individuals out there. There is a little bit of funding remaining from the Impact Reduction Program's American Rescue Plan funds that were put there. Approximately $110,000 remain. And I generated some information for the city manager to share with council on how they can program the impact reduction program into its future location inside of other than being a project that we've been managing out of the city manager's office. It's at a point now where the encampments and those pieces should be programmed into a department in the future. So that's something that we were preparing to bring to you. But in terms of the encampment itself, there's 20 to 30 people there.
Okay.
Can I answer your question, sir?
Well, I think it's good to hear that there's money that you said is still available, and I guess I'm just trying to understand again the timing of all this, because Director Gibson, I think you said that we're just not at a timeline point just yet. We haven't.
Well, as soon as council approve it, then we can tell the architects to go. Then you're probably talking about another 4 or 5 months, and then we'll bring that back to council because we'd have to put it out for bid, and then you have probably another 2 months there. So you're talking about June right now.
So, yeah, right. So let's just say, okay, let's just use that as a hypothetical. Between now and June is 6 to 7 months. Mr. Redding, is that enough time to engage in what we've been successful at when it comes to Gillespie or some other, I think, successful examples? Is that going to be enough of a window of time for you to address this properly? Because I don't want to just displace people and not have a plan, right? Especially if we know that there has been success going about it.
Councilmember, we're going to try to move. I know he's going to get your answer here. I mean,
But this is a big deal.
I think he's got what you're saying.
Yeah, but this is a big deal, though.
No, he's going to answer your question.
We're about to approve this without even thinking about that.
Well,
2 seconds ago.
I mean, I think he can answer your question, and then we'll
really
try
quickly.
To,
was everyone aware of the 25 people living out there? Yes. And you didn't have a problem with it?
Because they're working.
How? Okay, how are you guys working on it?
So there's been consistent engagement, and nobody's been transferred or displaced from a specific encampment as that project has not had consensus for council to move forward. With this, I believe this is the design portion with the architect, right? So this would still only get to the design portion, which wouldn't create the need to actually vacate that space as council determines what other funding they plan to apply to the impact reduction program. So to answer the question in the short version, we have not actively gone to reduce or remove that encampment. We've had continuous engagement and risk mitigation techniques, but nothing beyond that, sir.
And I guess we're not typically supposed to go through that protocol unless they've sort of hit those 5 different markers. Do you feel like, do you guys have that, or not markers, but whatever the benchmarks are, however many there are, is by virtue of doing construction there automatically trigger that protocol?
Absolutely. If this project was to move from the design phase into a construction phase later next year, then that would be the moment that activity of displacing and removing and cleaning the encampment would absolutely have to happen to progress. At this point, the funding, although there is some there, it doesn't fully meet the objective of that program to make it have the legs it needs.
And Council, I'm only interjecting this because if you read the notes from one of the Mayor Pro Tem meetings, we've asked the manager to come back with that. There are a couple of sites that have elevated behind or in and around Lowe's and Walmart. Yet Mr. Gillis and his folks were talking about it. And again, remember, the spirit of the council was to get these folks in a better position and on a path to that. And so he's going to come back with some estimated costs. I think we had a very effective approach last time with providing some housing and some hotel space until they were able to pick up services. But, you know, of course we know, and you to be commended of putting a process together that we don't just show up without a plan, you know, and I think Brooke has kind of mastered that. But he's going to come back, and hopefully you'll support adding a little bit more to that program as we mitigate some of these sites, because they are growing, and just turning a blind eye to it is not going to be a feasible alternative, and I don't think anybody wants that. But I think the manager is going to be preparing that. I think we talked about it, a couple of weeks ago, maybe?
Yes, sir, and this is actually a portion of that, and this is not Brooke on the present right now, I guess he was called up. But I would also say that while it may be prompted by us moving, hoping council will give the green light to move forward with the funds we have for Cape Fear River Park, which if council, while I was out, I don't know if you actually gave direction for us to move forward with this phase, but we would like that. But Brooke and others can also explain to you the volume and tonnage of waste and debris that we picked out from under the bridges. As the mayor said, I think that we're ahead of most in trying to do the impact reduction piece, and we definitely will come back with that. But I would also, to a question, I think you were going to ask me too about White Flag at some point in time. I may have missed that if you did already, but hopefully that we've answered the question about impact reduction. We'll be coming back with council for more information about that. Primarily, we've got the money lined up for that. But again, I think we're ahead of most in that we do have a program. And as the mayor said, we hope to move people in a better position they are at the moment. And then the other one, while, if I can, Mayor, because temperatures for the remainder of the week are supposed to get down low, Assistant City Manager Oliver, could you step forward very briefly and share with us, because I think it does pertain directly to your question about homeless and this site and other sites along throughout the city. White Flag, if you would.
Yes, sir. So city staff has been working with the Salvation Army to identify what their needs are that would enable them to open for White Flag nights, and they have very clearly articulated that need to us, and we feel that we can help with some of those areas of concern that they had about opening. And they have agreed to move forward with providing White Flag services while we're working through our agreement with them. So as of right now, they're definitely White Flag shelter through Friday. And they'll address it more as they're going on, but staff is working diligently to get an agreement in place so that we can provide them with the additional things that they need to be able to offer that service to the community.
All right. Councilmember McNair, you had something?
I did. Since our council member is looking at me down here, asking questions. Actually, I've been working closely with Assistant City Manager Kelly, and I've spoken to our City Manager Hewitt about this particular area. was brought to their attention, and they assured me that they were working on something. We're not just going to move people out without a plan. We're telling you now.
Councilmember Benavente, you've had 10 rounds, so let her finish.
We've been working very, very hard of getting people placed, especially working with the Day Resource Center with Corey, and they're doing a wonderful, wonderful job. These encampments are increasing. It's really tough, but however, we are working together. I'm going to say that we're just not sitting back, riding our thumbs. So we are working diligently, helping these individuals that want to be helped. There are some people that do not want to be helped. And so, I love working with these people. So it's not that we're ignoring and not coming up with a plan beforehand.
All right. Councilmember Davis.
Just ready to make the motion.
All right, I'm ready for you. You get your round when we make this motion, because you've had a couple already. So,
All right, I just moved to receive the report and direct staff to move forward with the first phase of this project.
All right. There's a motion by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Councilmember McNair, chairperson of the committee. Good work, too. I know you've been working.
Gather more information, if you like.
Okay.
We have several things that we are bringing to the table.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Appreciate the work, too.
Yes.
All right, discussion, 1 minute round, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. So this is the time that I get to find that information out. I know looks like there's a mayor pro tem meeting about it. Looks like maybe the Homeless Committee is meeting about it. So the accusation is not that no one's asking about it, it's that I don't know about it. So let's just make it clear that this is the time, a work session, for me to ask about it. So, no need to take, that as an accusation that you weren't doing something. Is that if I didn't ask, Director Gibson, that was not a part of your presentation, was it?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is the only opportunity that I would have to find out.
All right, thank you. All right, council, look to you for action on this. All right, thank you. All right, you got some work to do, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Got one more for you, though.
You back up here again?
Yes, I'm telling you now, making this stuff happen. Here we go, council. This is another one that's been on the books. It's had a master plan for many, many years. This is the culmination of us getting our new bridge over the railroad tracks, and then 3.5 acres becoming available, what we call Veterans Park 2. We've worked with DOT to acquire that environment. This is another phased approach that we want to turn this into another green space with some elements that represent the people who have sacrificed so much for America. And it's one of the state parks that funding was available, and we have some funding left over, and we want to start that process to get this going, to get this generated. And if you can see the first slide we have here, it's more of a green space, some walkways, some pathways. This is the one that I like the most about this project. It's that's a corner out there at the intersection of Murchison Road, where we have some of telling some of the artists that it's an angry environment where cars just stop and it's so big. So you can sort of soften it up with a nice entry feature into a park, a green space where people can walk and reflect. So we're looking for some direction here. There's a funding that's available that's left over. We used some of the dirt that was here to do some work over at Senior Citizen East, so we have some good elevations here that we'd like to go ahead and move forward with council's approval. And that's it. So we're looking for you to allow us to go ahead and move forward to get this first phase underway with some walkways, some reflection areas, and a nice corner feature. I do too, sir.
All right, Councilman Davis, that's all you?
Whenever I'm prepared to make a motion, sir.
Yeah, you the only one? Oh, no, you
No.
didn't. All right, Councilman Thompson
I'm going to second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
and here, okay. All right, Councilman Davis, your floor, sir.
Yes, sir. I just
Plenty of
removed-
seconds.
Just move to accept the report and direct staff to go forward with phase 2 of this project.
Phase 1.
All right, motion by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Thompson, I believe, and any discussion?
Yep. I just want to thank staff and Mr. Gibson and council for all the great work and hard work. Mr. Hewitt, having the great staff to do all the work to finish these projects. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all for doing this now. Thank you. Won't
All
let
right.
you down.
All right. Yes, sir. All right, council, look to for action on that. Who hasn't voted? Council, what you and Jesus doing over there? All right. All right, motion carries. All right, 6.07, Councilman Benavente, 5 minutes. Ms. Jen, you got the clock. All right, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. To all my council member colleagues, I hope that you guys can take a moment just to reference our actual policy on the topic of keys to the city. As you guys can see from number 115.18, the policy is very, very general, to say the least. The mayor can certainly be one to present a key to the city to an individual, and the council members can also nominate. So that's the purpose of today's councilmember request. Councilmember Tisha Waddell was a former city councilwoman for District 3. She served 2 terms. She was very successful in 2016, earning over 1,700 votes, and again in 2018, being reelected with over 1,300 votes. And so the people chose her to be their representative twice. That, to me, is what citizens who decide to sacrifice and do their time on council in service of the community are recognized for at the end of their terms. I think there was reasons that didn't happen at the time that she came off of council or by the time the next election came around. But I think it's high time that we address this issue. Objectively speaking, there's nothing in our policy making her being awarded the key an issue. She was duly elected. She served her time. And, you know, I'm certainly open to addressing any actual concerns that anyone will be willing to articulate. And that's just my big ask today is in addition to the support for anyone who is not interested in supporting, I would love to understand why, because I think it's worth addressing that issue today so that we can do the right thing in time for the holidays to you know, make right a necessary gesture for someone who served their community.
All right. Council, any questions, comments, Mr. Benavente? Councilman Green.
I'm going to speak to this because I spoke to it last week upstairs. I have worked with former Councilmember Waddell on a number of things. I wasn't on the council at the time. She was on the council, but she served. And she served, and she did what she was basically elected to do, as far as I can tell. She did not complete in the same way that everybody else may have, but she completed what she agreed to do in the beginning. I know that for me, I have to take personal feelings out, look at what's presented to me. She certainly meets the criteria for the key to the city. She's still involved in this community in a large way. She does a lot of things around campaigning and radio shows, and she's just a general advocate for our city. So I haven't been elected judge and jury, so I'm going to be supporting this attempt. And I do think that there is some need maybe to broaden and be more specific about the policy. So maybe the mayor pro tem could take that into policy and just look at that, you know, in a broad way with her committee. Because when I look at the list of people that have received the key to the city in the past, that list is very broad. And there's just a lot of interpretation there. And I don't believe that we should narrow the interpretation over personal feelings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. Councilman McNair.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I have pondered over this due to the fact that I guess listening to the reasons why not to give her the key to the city. One is because she quit. However, I'm leaning towards, I'm not going to say I totally agree, but what my councilwoman said here, removing my emotions. I don't know her. But however, I feel like I need a little more time I guess to remove any emotions that I may have.
Well, and just for the record, you know, we are elected to 2-year terms. In that particular year, as you know, we lost 8 months because it was extended. So, you know, I think typifying it as quitting, I don't know if it's exactly accurate. When it comes to the time period that she was elected to serve, it was completed. I think her resignation came for a multitude of reasons. But you know, I think certainly it's not the same as I think other folks have kind of tried to bring up in the past. Another resignation from another council member. I think we can distinguish very, very, very easily the difference between someone who is probably going to get removed from council the hard way, being given a chance to resign, versus a situation like this where a global pandemic, amongst many other factors, I think impacted someone's interest in being able to continue, or ability to continue.
Councilmember, you got to wrap it up.
I'll just wrap it up by saying this again. You know, I think this is, we hold each other to a certain standard for sure. But, you know, this key, as you can see from this list, has gone out to, you know, various levels. Let's not act as though, you know, the bar is so high for Councilmember Waddell. You know, let's sort of, you know, let he without sin cast the first stone attitude of this a little bit, y'all. And let's really consider whether or not we want to die on this hill when we should be doing the right thing.
We got to take your vote. I think you've made it. All right, Councilman Banks McLaughlin, real quick. He's out of his 5 minutes, but I know you had your light on for him.
Yeah, I won't take much time. I would just say I have served with Councilmember Waddell. I wouldn't necessarily say I think it's a difference between quit and resign. I mean, she did put in a resignation letter, regardless of why or how. It was a written letter sent to staff. So I will be supporting this key to the city, as I've supported it before when it was brought up by former council member Ingram. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Harris, you have your light on?
Thing, Mayor, just that I think we do need to look at our ordinance, our policy on this a little bit better.
All right.
A little bit more.
All right. So council, look to you for action on Councilmember Benavente's request. Who are we missing, Jen? Councilman McNair. What you doing over there? Just close your eyes and push. All right. All right. So motion 5-5. All right, council, motion to adjourn. Good meeting. All right.